What's up YouTube? It's Jake with Adventure GT, and this is my 2003 Subaru Baja. The Battle Baja. So it was about 2010, 2011, and I had just heard about the Baja, and I was instantly in love with it. But I couldn't afford it. I was fresh out of high school, barely making any money, and it's always been in the back of my head. So after a while, my last vehicle transition didn't go out, and I needed something to fall in love with, so I thought it was finally time to get one. And actually finding one was pretty difficult. The Subaru Baja was poorly marketed and hardly advertised. Everybody thought it was ugly, but to everybody else, it was way ahead of its time. So I found this one in Michigan. It was about a 12-hour round trip for me to drive up there and get it and bring it back home. And I paid about, I paid $5,900, but right away, it had to get its timing belt and water pump changed. This is an interference engine, and if the timing belt snaps, you're gonna have to rebuild the top half of the motor. So you're supposed to change those between 60 and 80,000, and there was already 100,000 miles on the clock. So kind of rolled the dice, driving it 11 hours on a dry rotted, timing belt. So right away, that was another, I think, $1,000 by the time you get into all the tensioners, all the water pump, the timing belt. Once that gets all up to, so technically I'll bring my total up to about $6,900. And if you know anything about Subaru, you've heard of the dreaded Subaru head gaskets, and this one was no exception. I had to swap out the head gaskets at about 120,000 miles and get both heads machined down, resurfaced, and once those were put back together, about $1,500 later, $1,200 later. So my bill is, total, what I would consider what I paid for the car is, a little over $8 grand once everything's said and done, to the point where it can drive reliably, I would say. And once you change those head gaskets out, you're pretty much good for the life of the vehicle. Another 100,000 miles easily. I'm part of a Subaru group on Facebook, and these things have shown to get like 300,000 miles easy. So honestly, it turned me into a kind of a Subaru guy. The Bajas did come with a turbo, and if you want one of those, you're gonna have an even harder time trying to track one of those down on a budget. I mean, you can see them on eBay. I think a turbo white one, which is called a unicorn in the community, sold for about $15,000, and it already had 100,000 miles on it. So honestly, if you can get one now, because prices are still going up. I don't see Subaru pickups coming around anytime soon, so they're still a rarity. That's another reason why I bought this one in general. One, because it's not a Jeep. You think off-road community and everybody's like four-wheel drive, gotta have a Jeep. And so I'm out to roll with the best of them in an all-wheel drive and keep up with them, just because I can, and because you get all the looks, you get all the thumbs up from everybody, doing what they're doing, but kind of handicapped. That too, and I enjoy getting 25 miles per gallon while going off-road, so another bonus. I mean, I've been approached by other fans who, people like, hey, can I buy your car? Where can I get one of those things? My favorite one was a guy asking, are those new? Are those brand new? I'm like, no, this is a 2003, and it has some wear and tear on it. From the factory, these things had about 7 inches of ground clearance, and then in 2004 and up, they actually raised the vehicle by 1 inch, so it gave you a little bit more ground clearance, and that's what I kind of got going on right now. I have 2006 suspension under it right now to give it an extra inch of lift. Let's see, I think it is 2010 Toyota Tacoma shocks and springs in the rear, and that gets you an extra 500 pounds of payload capacity, and it actually raises the rear end up another 1/2 inch. And then After I got that installed, later on I put 40mm spaces up front to raise it up another, you know, 1.5 inches. It's sitting at about 2 inches of lift from its original sitting place in 2003 up from the factory. Then put some beefy all-terrain tires on there. My off-road settings are 215 65 R16 on Subaru Outback rims, and you can fit a 215 70 tire on there, but then you're gonna have to start getting into cutting, trimming, and pounding with a hammer, massaging everything, because you're gonna start running into rubbing problems. Aside from lifting the vehicle, the mods are kind of crazy actually. So yeah, that front bumper bull bar was all custom made by me. I made my own brackets to make that fit, and it's not perfectly reinforced that I would feel comfortable with moving, pulling with it yet, and recovery with it. So not quite done with the front bumper. I put adjustable control arms in the rear. So there's there's 6 adjustable control arms in the rear because I tried to space my lift out. If I could do it again, I would just buy an actual kit from a seller, because doing it the way I did, I had to tweak and move everything. I think I've had like 5 or 6 different alignments done in the life of trying to lift my vehicle. I've added a bigger sway bar in the back, adjustable sway bar end links, LED interior lights, LED defense light, the rear cargo light is kind of a defense light for me. LED interior bulbs all the way around. These are Primitive Racing skid plates for the front and the rear diff. Fumoto oil valve in there, so you know, oil changes take 5 minutes. And these roof lights, these are Rough Country roof lights. I had some Nylite cheapy Amazons, but they got full of water. So far these Rough Country lights have proven amazingly. I've had them on there for about 1.5 years now, and these brackets to fit are actually custom made by another member in the Subaru group. But these are custom 3D printed to fit the Baja. And then the stereo system is all right, but there's not enough bump, not enough bass for me. So I actually removed the pass-through door and custom built my own little sub box for it, and it's not too bad. I can't say it's a perfect car. It's definitely got its own faults about it. A couple of things that I hate about it, you know, it has one of the most unique sounds when you close the door and the window's down. If you do not have the turbo model, it is sorely lacking in power. It's the same motor they use in the Subaru Outback, except it's a lot heavier than the Outback, so it is sluggish. If you're gonna have friends in the back seat, they better be shorty too. There's not really any room in the back. Some people in the Subaru off-road community even transform their back seats into just storage compartments, because literally the back seat is kind of a joke. So I wish it had more space back there, for one, or just make it a 2-door vehicle. There's some concept art out there about people who have chopped the back doors off just to make a longer bed. The bed space is laughable by everybody. You roll up to Home Depot or a trash dump and they're like, hey, I think you need a bigger truck because you've made it multiple trips, or but you just gotta roll with the punches. I mean, if you have ratchet straps, you can make anything fit. Whether it's safe or not to carry larger than that, it's not really that great. But yeah, the leather seats were really ripped on the driver's side. I actually got that changed out with a manual seat when I was doing a weight reduction video. So I think Subarus in general that have seen any salt or any winters are gonna have some rust damage, and the Baja is no exception. The rear doors under both sides of mine have been hit really hard by rust. That's actually a really common place for Bajas in general. Are, you know, they rust out in the rear doors and the shock towers, the subframes. So I guess when you decide you're gonna get one of these vehicles, you gotta stay on top of rust work. But like I said, the Baja is lacking of power. So if I wouldn't mind finding a turbo kit for it, but in that case, you might as well just sell your current model and go find a turbo Baja Subaru, because that gets really expensive. Or you can motor swap an H6 into this. LL Bean Outbacks came with 3.0 or an H6. So you can motor swap out your 4-cylinder for a 6-cylinder and gain more power that way. Subarus in Australia had a dual range transmission that would give you, 4 high or 4 low all-wheel drive capabilities. So I think that's somewhere down the road. I would love to get my hands on one of those transmissions. Looking into $1,000, $2,000. I would like to get a torque locker for the rear and, really make one of the craziest off-road Subarus out there, because you just don't see them. But I would like to start traveling out of state. There are a bunch of different places out west, down south, that I would like to, really push this Subaru to its limits. Oh, also, zip tie your cover or bolt in your cover. There are 2 little plastic clips, and this thing will run away, and then you'll be sad, and it'll look like crap. Boom. All right, so that's about everything that I can think of, at least as far as this vehicle's concerned. And hopefully that's inspired you if you want to go out and get one. This is Jake with Adventure GT, and I'll catch you later. The dryer ate my shirt.